Welcome to another chapter of the Dementia Diary, a chronicle of caring. I'm your host and author, Barbara Diamond, sharing with you my true story of caring for a loved one with memory loss. This chapter is titled, Finding Hubby, 3 is a Charm. If you have ever seen the game Finding Nemo, you will remember hundreds of little figures with Nemo hidden in the picture. It is cute on paper, but not so in real life. Hubby's memory loss has become a substantial issue. It impinges on every second of our life. The only thing worse than losing a child is losing your spouse. We are discussing now losing in the old sense of the word, as when a person has gone missing. It has happened to me on 3 very memorable occasions, and the stress that wells up and the panic that sets in was simply overwhelming. By the way, it was me who had the stress and the panic. Hubby handled it much better than I did. Perhaps because he was not able to think of the what-ifs. What if he was injured? What if someone took him to a hospital? What if he was with strangers? What if a car hit him? What if the police could not find him? And on and on and on. The first time I had the experience was about 5 years ago, and it was a mild warning of what was to come. I still trusted at that time that Hubby could remember how to walk from our home in Jerusalem to the nearby mall to meet me for lunch. He was still quite fit and comfortable walking on his own. He was having lapses of memory on occasion, but he still seemed to be able to remember our usual routes in the neighborhood. We had a lunch date for 1 p.m. at an Italian restaurant in the nearby mall. And by 1:30, 30 minutes later, I was beginning to feel uneasy. I called our home phone, but as he never mastered technology and didn't have a cell phone, that would have been an entire possibility, he did not answer the home phone. I paid my drink bill since I hadn't ordered yet, and I went to a jewelry shop across the way. They knew me, unfortunately, because I've spent time there enjoying their products. And I asked if they had seen my distinguished English gentleman in his perky fedora with his leather gloves, his custom-tailored tweed jacket, zip-front turtleneck sweater, and his cane. Indeed, they had. They said he walked right by their shop, walking in the opposite direction to a different eatery in the mall. I rushed to restaurant number 2, walked right by the hostess in a panic, only to find him sitting at a table for 2 with a large grin on his face. He knew he was sitting in the wrong restaurant, but he couldn't remember the right one. He cleverly believed that I would find him eventually. I remember being angry, but really mostly relieved. It was not his fault that he could not remember. I had written him a note as a reminder with the time and the place on it. He had left the note at home, and he could not remember what it said. The second time I lost Hubby was in a multiplex cinema when our friend Susie had joined us to go see a romantic new film release. We were just getting to the good part near the end when Hubby announced he needed to go to the men's room. Now, in recent years, there was always a warning time, but that warning time has become very short. By the time he realizes he needs the bathroom, I don't want to waste a minute, so I accompany him immediately to the nearest men's room. On this particular occasion, we were fortunate. The door to that men's room faced the door to our film's entrance. He went into the bathroom on his own, and I promised to wait by the door until he finished. He took his time, and the minutes were ticking away, so I indulged myself and snuck back into our film to see where the storyline was heading. The good part was just moments away. How horrid to have to sit through more than an hour and a half without knowing how the ending would work out. I swear I was no more than 2 minutes before I returned to my designated post. But hubby never came out of the bathroom. I begged some male cinema employees to go into the bathroom and shout his name. But indeed, the bathroom was empty. I was really befuddled. I was so confused. How could he disappear in just 2 minutes? To the left of the door, there was a security door which led into the bowels or the inner depths of the complex. If he'd gone that way, it was really going to be a big problem. In the other direction, there were more filming rooms which had different films, and they had different numbers. And which way had he gone? Susie came out when our film ended, and when I told her that hubby had gone missing, she became quite hysterical, running up and down the aisles looking for someone to help us to find him. While she was trying to get a cinema employee to look through security camera footage, I stayed in place. Eventually, the film in the next room to ours concluded. The patrons filled out, and hubby was with them. We had a grand hugging session after being reunited. He said that he did find it strange that the film that he was watching seemed to have different people in it than the one that we had been enjoying before. And still, it never occurred to him that he was watching the wrong film in the wrong room. Susie and I were really relieved. And from there, we go on to the next moment in our lives because hubby wondered what all the fuss was about. He knew where he was the whole time, so he wasn't actually lost. So then we went to the south of France where we have an apartment, and the walk from our apartment to the main shopping street is what I like to call a straight shot. Every day when we are there, we walk down the same road to arrive at our favorite coffee shop, which faces a lovely mall. It is a city block in length. It has over 100 shops and quite a few restaurants and coffee shops as well. On the top level are the public bathrooms. If you've never had to pay to use a bathroom, this is such a treat. 50 pence and the world is your oyster. But no money, disaster looms. Hubby and I had been having coffee on that top level and decided when we finished that we would both frequent the lavatories. They were conveniently designed next to each other. So €1 later, the two of us went into the bathroom. He went left and I went right. I told him I would meet him in front of the bathroom entrance when we were done. I came out to find no hubby. Not to worry. He can take longer than I do. We have time. I can wait. 45 minutes later, still no hubby. The mall was closing early, so it must have been a Sunday. I began to panic, and I asked the employees working in the area to please look in the men's room for me. They came out saying no one answered. But perhaps he had a heart attack and was slumped on the bathroom floor in a stall. I could not accept that they might be right. I barged into the men's room with them like a bull in a china shop. I knocked on each stall and peeked under the door as a double check to make sure he had not passed out in one of them. The men inside were not delighted by my presence, but I didn't care one whit. In total stress mode, I left the mall. I walked to our favorite coffee shop across the walking street, which also accommodates their light rail. The staff had not seen hubby either. I began quickly the trek home down the one long street which stretches from the cathedral, which was made famous by a horrible terror attack in the past year, to our building which houses over 100 apartments in what was previously a grand hotel. I really thought my head and my heart would explode. The what-ifs began to crowd my brain. What if he's not there? What if he's hurt? What if he's really lost? What would I do next? As I entered our building, I caught sight of Hubby walking down the spiral staircase, which led up to the mezzanine where our apartment is. He was holding the battery-powered house phone, thinking he could call me from the hallway. I try to be prepared for emergencies. I have a board attached to our refrigerator in our kitchen. It has my cell phone number on it and other critical phone numbers. Of course, he did not remember to use the information which I had posted for this exact situation. He was beside himself because he did not know where I was. There were actually two blessings which emerged. Hubby remembered how to walk home from the mall, and once there, he remembered he had his keys in his pocket and was able to get into our apartment. We were both upset to distraction, yelling at one another, accomplished absolutely nothing. It took us both hours to calm down. At that point, each blaming the other. Hubby explained to me that when he was finished in the bathroom, he came out and I was not there. As he could not recall what I had said, he went on to look for us in our lovely cafe across the street. When he could not find me, he decided to go home, thinking perhaps I had gone there. Of course, I would never have suggested to him that we meet back at home, but at least his mind was still capable of remembering enough that it directed him back to safety. Why would I say 3 is a charm? Quite simply, I was unable to face Hubby's limitation. Not once, not twice, but actually 3 times. Finally, I had to come face to face with some harsh facts. I had to accept that we could not be without a companion for Hubby, nor could I make future presumptions based on former assumptions. I came to understand that meeting in a familiar spot was no longer an option. In the past, if I had other errands to do, I would pick up Hubby with a taxi at our home. He was still able then to lock up our house and meet me in the parking lot alone in those days. I remember thinking and saying, if we can't even go to the bathroom without impending doom, what does the future hold in store for us? Seriously, how would I ever get to go shopping at my favorite French boutiques or even the grocery store if I could not leave him with a cup of coffee in a cafe and trust that he would still be there when I returned? It is moments like these when we see our future slipping through our fingers. How will we ever manage without hope, without help? Thus, the time inevitably came when I could no longer avoid facing our new reality. I now had to finally admit that travel had become far more complicated and that uncertainty was lurking behind every bathroom door. Our world was unraveling one day at a time, and somehow now I must find those secret threads that will weave it back together. This has been the latest chapter of the Dementia Diary, a chronicle of caring. For additional free resources for caregivers, please go to thedementiadiary.com. I am your host, Barbara Diamond, and I welcome you to join me again next time for another chapter of the Dementia Diary, a chronicle of caring.